Good morning, everyone. As you're aware, well, you may not be aware, but I'm Sandy from MND Queensland. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today we have Leanne O'Shea, and we're going to be discussing methods and strategies for carers specifically. Leanne comes with us with such a wealth of experience, and we were talking just before. Leanne and I have been connected for a couple of years now, so a wonderful asset to the MND community. So I'll pass over to you, Leanne, but if everyone can be aware that the session is being recorded for people who can't attend at this moment in time. It will go up on our website if you would like to see it again. And if you could all please mute, and we'll leave questions, or I'll leave it with you, Leanne, how you're wanting to go with the meeting. But thank you and really enjoy.
Good morning, everyone. It's so lovely to join you today. Now, before I get started, we just had a few technical issues to start with, which is very common, but I just want to change my view because I can only see two of you. So I just want to see if I can change it. That might be a little bit better, but
It's because everyone else is off screen. You're only seeing those that are on screen.
Oh, I've got a view where everyone's sitting in a seat like we're in an auditorium. I've never seen that before. It kind of works. I'm going to leave it on that one because I can't see everybody. But let me introduce myself, and it's such an honour to be here with you all. I am actually based in WA. But that doesn't make a difference to the work that I do, and I'm very proud of the work that I do, and I'm an experienced end-of-life and grief counsellor. So I do a lot of work nationally. I do a lot of work specifically with MND in WA, Queensland and Victoria. I also run my private practice, and I work with palliative care, the Busselton Hospice Unit, and I do a lot of work in the compassionate community space. Put your hand up if you're aware of compassionate communities and what they do in our community. No one's heard of the terminology compassionate communities? I know Sandra has, and I know Sandra is very passionate about, implementing it into the work that they do in Queensland. But Compassionate Communities is a volunteer-run organisation, and it's all about grief and death literacy. It's educating our community on what to do when someone is dying, caring or grieving. And we do a lot of programs in our community to encourage this conversation. And throughout my work over the last 6 years, I've really started to identify that we avoid these conversations at all costs. But one of the best things that we can do for ourselves is step into the discomfort. And when we do, we find comfort. And our culture doesn't do, these conversations around grief and death very well. Yet what I have seen is when people do, they develop a sense of awareness. They make conscious choices around their values and their beliefs, and they really have a healthy understanding of what it means when you're caring for someone with a terminal illness. But today we're here talking about you guys in the role of being a carer. Can I ask, for the ones that are here as a guest and are caring for someone with MND, can I ask you just to put your hands up? So we've got Karen, Felicity, is Arnie and Mark as well, or is Mark a MND? I just don't know who's an MND and who's a guest.
So Arnie has MND, Mark has, Claire's a carer as well. So there's a couple carers online.
Yeah, perfect. So yeah, I just want to share with you all that I'm really having an informal session today, and I want to encourage you to contribute to the conversation, to share your own personal experience, whether it's MND or the important role of being a carer. Ask me any questions in regards to the journey of pre and post. Can I ask if anyone has recently lost someone to MND? No. Great. Okay. It's also really important in this space that we've come together today to understand that we are forever a student. And as life changes and each day there's a new direction, it's really important that we learn that we are forever a student, but everyone is our teacher. So everyone on this video today, on this call, and for the ones that are going to watch it later, everyone has something to teach us. I'm not here to give you all the information. Everyone on this call brings a wealth of knowledge through your own personal experiences and your own trials and tribulations. And that's what a compassionate community is all about. There's no right or wrong. It's about coming together in this space, in a caring, safe space to share compassionately. So being here today does take courage, and it takes a real commitment for you to really consider different ways that you can adapt your life, knowing that life has changed with a diagnosis like MND. So I'm hoping that today we can find the joys in what it means to be a carer and what it means to live with MND. What I share often is that in one's lifetime, you're going to experience 1,000 joys and 1,000 sorrows. You can't have one without the other. They go together. Life and death, you can't have one without the other. They go together. And so today we're going to explore the sorrows of your day-to-day life, but we're also going to make sure that we acknowledge the joys. And when we have the balance between the both, that is really a healthy approach to every day. So it's so great that you could join us here today, but this call is really about you guys. So does anyone want to share what they were hoping to get out of today's session? Arnie, Karen, Felicity, does anyone want to share? Just unmute yourself if you do.
Hi, I'm Felicity, but everyone calls me Anne.
And beautiful.
This is my husband Rocco. He's caring for me. I wanted us to join in on this today because I feel like the last 6 months or 8 months we've been focusing go on getting all of my medical things sorted, you know, doctor's speech, and we've really been on a roller coaster. And you know, to be honest, this isn't how our life was supposed to be now. And so I feel like for me, now's the time to talk about how we cope, you know, with everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Anne, for jumping out. And it really is a conversation that I have every day. And Rocco, you know, thank you for having the courage to be here as well. And, you know, your role as a carer and your identity in the relationship in the home has really changed now. And that's something that is important to give yourself permission to explore also. It's also important to acknowledge that, you know, pre-grief, and I've really started to recognise now that pre-grief is probably the most important process, and it really makes a difference to post-grief, because grieving is a very natural response to loss, and grieving is a very important emotional release. Grieving isn't an illness, it's not a disease, it's a very important process. Now for Rocco and Anne, you're grieving the loss of the future that you'd planned. You're grieving the loss of maybe not being able to work now, or to do some of the things that you used to do unconsciously. What are some of the things that we used to do unconsciously? Take the dog for a walk along the beach, you know, be able to just go about our daily chores without thinking about it, where now everything is a conscious effort in regards to managing our MND and managing our day. And you're so right, Anne, is that your last 6 months have been consumed in medical appointments and finding that new way, that new balance in your life. And that's why I talk about the joys and the sorrows, because it's a really good way for you to self-reflect and identify. And what I say, it's about daily mind mapping. Where are we at? Where's the balance of the joys and the sorrows? Are we spending all day consumed in medical appointments and the MND? What can we do to implement some joy to bring some balance? So I'm going to be authentic with you all and share that I am finding myself in the role as a carer at the moment. My husband has been diagnosed with cancer and is going through treatment. So I'm in the role of carer. And even with my experience, I find it quite difficult. But one thing that really helps me, and of course, I come with a bit of experience, but I do a weekly mind map to make sure that there is that balance. And for your self-care strategy, which we'll come back to later, what do you need personally, Rocco? What does Anne need? What do you both need together? What are you scheduling within the next few weeks or the next few months to have something to look forward to? Identifying the joys. What does Rocco need for his own personal needs, his own hobbies, his own connections with his mates? Rocco, did you play golf, or did you have any hobbies until life took a turn with MND?
Oh, not really. I'd play darts of a weekend with me mates, But
yeah.
I played a bit of golf when Annie was a good golfer, so I used to play a bit with her. But other than that, I used to do a lot of tinkering in the shed and stuff, but mainly working.
Yeah, awesome. And can I ask, do you still go and tinker in the shed?
Not as much, no.
Are you still playing darts?
I still play darts, yeah. Try to, yeah.
Well done for allowing yourself and giving yourself permission to do something for yourself, because can I ask you, prior to MND, was Rocco the husband, the financial provider, the worker? But now tell me about your role as the carer. Has that taken a little bit of an adjustment?
Oh, he definitely has, yeah. Only thing I did do, I worked all my life, but so did Anne. So I retired a bit before her, just through work circumstance. And so I did a lot of the cooking and cleaning and washing up and stuff. So I used to do it anyway because Anne was still working, But
yes.
now I just do a bit more, yeah, got more to do.
Well, I had to really stop working because of my diagnosis. And yeah, Rocco, I think, has just extended this huge responsibility from doing the housework to now being a carer, Yeah.
Has it impacted the relationship in any way?
Oh, not really. Probably brought us closer in some ways. So.
Beautiful. Well done. That's really beautiful. And that's a conscious choice. And every day is a conscious choice. And you may not want to, and it certainly needs to be honoured that it's a huge adjustment to a diagnosis and changing those changes in your life plan. But what my work has taught me is that everyone has a story, and within everyone's story, life takes a new direction in any moment. And although I'm dealing with a diagnosis with my husband and our life has come to a grinding halt, I constantly remind myself that I could go tomorrow. So although we're sitting here talking about MND, and yes, MND, you know, is a terminal diagnosis, Rocco could go tomorrow, Sandra could go tomorrow, I could go tomorrow. So we're all included in this conversation. And I think that's really what's important. And these conversations generally, in my experience, actually motivate and inspire people. So I'll share with you, I was very motivated through compassionate communities, was to encourage this conversation on a larger scale. So I developed a state forum, a WA forum, and we live streamed it internationally. And it was from 8 a.m. in the morning to 4 p.m. in the afternoon. And we had international speakers from all over the world, and we had it in Bunbury in WA. Now, I thought we're probably going to get about 50 to 70 people attend this. Who wants to talk about death and dying all day? Well, we're going to record it and live stream it, so it's accessible to anyone at any time. We ended up having 180 people in the room. And what was really fascinating was nobody wanted to leave. Why is that? Because this conversation is universal. No one is immune from it. As much as we don't want to talk about it, when they step into the conversation, they have what I call those aha moments. And as much as it's a difficult conversation, they recognise the importance of it. So I do respect and I do understand that it's difficult maybe sitting here right now in this conversation. But please know that it comes from compassion and care. For you to start developing your own self-awareness. Self-awareness is our commitment to understanding ourselves in this moment, how we're responding to this moment, how our own physical self. And so there's different elements to the grieving process. There's our physical response, our social response, our emotional response, our mental and spiritual response. And everyone's going to be so different depending on your beliefs. Someone has a greater spiritual response to pain and loss. Some people have a more physical response to pain and loss. Some social, they isolate themselves, they disconnect, and they don't go out anymore. So that's why for me, when I talk about a mind map, I'm literally putting my life on a piece of paper, and I put a circle on a piece of paper, put my name in the middle, and all of the important areas of my life, finances, health, family, the children, joy and social activities. And I map out what we need, what's working and what's not working. And what's not working needs my attention. What's not working needs solutions to ensure that that balance is there. And it's not until I map it out that I can really identify what it is that needs the attention. So for a carer, not only is it about the importance of the role for caring someone that we love, but it's also taking personal responsibility for themselves. And for Rocco, he's still playing darts, which is absolutely fantastic, because a lot of people literally stop their life and become a full-time carer. But we should always be our number one priority. To take care of others, we need to take care of ourselves. Identifying our role as a carer and how has that impacted the household, the relationship, the intimacy. Grieving the loss of our old life, grieving the loss of my independence, because now I'm a full-time carer. I can't just come and go as I please. Giving yourself permission to grieve the old life and acknowledge the new life. Anticipatory grief is something that I want to talk to you about. Does anyone understand what anticipatory grief means? Anticipatory grief is knowing what the future looks like. Knowing what could happen in 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, or 20 years. no different to my personal experience right now, as I can have all the professional experience, but right now my experience is very, very personal with my husband. And I've had to consider and make sure that I'm fully consciously aware of the planning and considerations of the what ifs. So I have experienced anticipatory grief in the last couple of months, knowing what could happen. Does anyone want to ask any questions, share? I encourage you to share, or also the discomfort of this conversation.
Can you hear me there?
Yes.
We can
Yeah,
hear
we
you.
can. Just touching on what you were just saying, Leanne, that's the thing though with this disease. Yeah, we know what the end, we know what's going to happen at the end, but no one can tell us, you know, the segments in between, because everybody's so different, you know. So I personally find that difficult, because I'm a bit of a planner, you know, and at the moment we're renovating our garage so that Ray and I can sleep downstairs, because he's having trouble negotiating the stairs. But, you know, prior to all that, it was, you know, do we get a stair lift? Do we, you know, go down a different route, or, you know, and that's really hard too, because I'm also, you know, we had to clean out the garage. It was horrible, because this was Ray's domain, and here I am, you know. It's like when we went to help out in the floods, you know, you're throwing people's possessions away. You know, I find that really difficult. I'm really conscious that this is his life, and, you know, I'm putting it into piles of, you know, this can go to the tip, or this can be given away.
Yeah.
And it's and also with like the renovation, it's like, well, I also actually want to put my car in the garage when that time comes. I want to convert it back. It's just, they're crazy, stupid things that you think, but the big thing for me was sorting out all of his stuff there while he's sitting there with me. And it was a bit of a overwhelming experience for me, and I just said I can't do it anymore. And then, you know, I had my cry for half an hour, and then put my big girl pants back on and went back down there and started to do it. But I found that just recently a really difficult thing to do, because, you know, not only have we taken his food away from him, which he loves his food, and, you know, and he's lost 38 kilos. He used to be a strong man. It's just take all the time, and it's killing me, you know, for him. I'm just devastated for him. I don't think, obviously I'm devastated, but it's everything that's been taken from him that's killing me. You know, enough's enough. Anyway, it's just hard.
No, it is hard. It is very hard, and I can't thank you enough for your raw and honest share. And before I contribute to the conversation, I just want to apologise. My battery was about to go flat, so I had to take you for a walk to my charger. And the last thing we needed was for me to disappear off the screen. So I do apologise for that. And I hope I did it very subtly. I don't know if you noticed that I was moving. But Kara, I really want to share with you is that this is pre-grief. Everything that you shared is pre-grief, because you're starting to organise belongings pre rather than the normal post. So you're grieving every day for the changes, the unknown, and the difficult tasks that you have to complete. And I think, you know, going back to the conversation of in our culture, we don't do death and dying very well, is that it's only now that we really do start to explore what do these possessions mean to us? What does life mean? We question our own mortality. We question life itself. What's important to us? And I really do acknowledge that the shed, again, that is a loss. You're losing the shed and what the shed represented to you both. That was his space.
Yeah.
So the more that you can allow yourself to talk about it, express, understand and acknowledge your loss, your pain and your grief, the more you step into the discomfort of that, the more you find comfort. So through MND, you have access to me personally to support you through that. So if that's something that you feel that you would benefit from, then by all means, please talk to Sandra. Yeah. Because I not only in MND, I find it with all clients that I work with, there's two things that I've noticed that is very common. 80% of my clients that I work with, it's a very, very high percentage. The story is the same. We're about to retire, we've bought the caravan and we were looking forward to a new life of adventure and slowing down, and it doesn't happen. Now, I'm talking a very high percentage of the clients that I work with. The story is just the same story. Only yesterday I worked with a client at my centre and they had to, they got a refund on the caravan that they'd ordered because her husband didn't make it. And so this is why is it that we get to this stage that we start to question everything and what's important to us? And that's why compassionate communities is such an important movement, because we do a lot of advanced care planning workshops and we encourage every age group to do an advanced care plan. We encourage every age group to have this conversation. At that forum that I developed, and there was 180 people in the room, we did a school project and it's called Compassionate Schools. And 3 schools did a project where they did an art project and it was in the foyer of the centre where we held the forum. We had children come up on stage and talk and share. We had every age group share on that day because nobody is immune to the experience of death, grief, illness. And so everyone needs to be involved in this conversation. The first second of life is the first second of death. Do you want me to say that again? Something I want to also talk about, and well, I'll come back to that. I also just want to talk about burnout. And it's something very mindful as a carer. And today's conversation really is about the role of a carer. I sort of jump between the two, but I think the two are just as important. But burnout, as the disease progresses, and this is what I've seen in my experience with MND, as the disease progresses, burnout increases for the carer. And then, of course, that can have implications not only to the relationship, but the grieving process also. Now, that's not something necessarily that I'm going to talk about today because I do believe that it may be a little bit too heavy. But I also think that it's important, if you want to connect with me and talk about that afterwards, to develop your own awareness, your own skills and ability to identify when burnout is setting in, whether it's myself or someone else that you trust and know that can allow you to talk through that. I highly encourage it. It is a progressive disease. And unfortunately, as the disease progresses, the role of the carer increases 24/7. No one has been trained to do that. No one has been given the skills to know how to take on that role. So please be kind to yourself. I also want to talk about family and friends conflict. For some, it may not happen, but for a lot, it does. You're making the wrong choices. You're not doing this right. Why haven't you done this? What are you going to do when this happens? Generally, the conflict that I witness in all of my clients' stories is due to fear of the individual. But unfortunately, myself or others can't work with that individual to explore the fear, to ensure that they're a support to the family rather than a challenge to the family. But it's important, again, to give yourself permission to take a step back and develop awareness of what's going on, why it's happening, why it's not personal, and how to manage it, because the last thing you need is that conflict to add to the burden of your role as a carer. I've recently had it in my own experience with my husband. A family member felt that they were the only one that could save Pete, and they wanted me out of the way at all costs. I've been married to my husband for 32 years, but someone else wanted to take care of Pete to save him, and they were the only person. But I understand it's fear, and I understand that she did not want to lose her brother, and she was the only one. It happens every day, but if we can acknowledge that it's not generally about us, death does, and illness and sickness and change, especially change, impacts people in so many different ways. Anne, did you want to share anything?
Not really, other than what you're saying is really, I think, applicable for us, you know, probably not so much about family conflict, but certainly about how we both, you know, cope, you know, and yeah, and even, I don't want Rocco to get burnt out, but I feel there's a limited amount I can do. So I guess we have to maybe look at other strategies to get him a break so his balance is better.
Very great contribution, Felicity, and I did want to touch on that. So thank you so much for the reminder. Sorry,
we are very lucky, though. All our family gets on very well, and that's my sisters and brother, and also our kids. So.
And my sisters, yeah.
Beautiful, and that is the number one priority. As a part of that mind map, mapping out who is your circle of support. Who is your compassionate community? Is it your neighbours, work colleagues, friends, family? Who are the ones that are going to be there for you in a way that is a compassionate, caring approach? And don't be afraid to ask for help. One thing we've found through compassionate communities is, as a community, we don't ask for help. And we found many elderly living on their own in the community just don't ask for help. So we developed a volunteer program within compassionate communities where we have volunteers, and they're called compassionate connectors. And all they do is go into someone's home and have a cuppa with them and a chat and connect, because it's been proven that loneliness kills more people than cigarette smoking. So having the courage to ask for help. Now, we're all guilty of not being able to ask for help, but what I have seen is the joy that it brings to people that have been asked to help. They want to help. They want to be a supportive, compassionate, caring person. They didn't recognise it inside themselves until someone asked them to. And so not only our circle of support is a priority for the carer to take them for a coffee, but also to identifying the support that's available through NDIS, through the MND Association. And I think, Karen, it was you that shared you're a planner. One thing that I have identified over the last 4 years working with MND is that forward planning is critical, because sometimes it can take, to get a bed or a different wheelchair or modifications to the home, it can take quite a while. And forward planning, even though you don't want to step into the future and step into the future of the MND, please know it takes the pressure off you. Because if you need a bed tomorrow, it's not going to happen. But if you plan for a bed 3 months in advance, it takes the stress off you. It really does take the stress off you. So planning is, I have found in my experience working with families, the ones that are forward thinkers communicate regularly with their health team and plan for the future, have a smoother journey and a stress-free journey. Mark, Claire, is it Arnie? Did anyone else want to share? Just you need to unmute yourself, Arnie.
Right, can you hear me?
Yes.
For us, we've got a very good friend who is a retired funeral director. And we asked him to come in and see us and talk through a lot of issues to do with end of life and what we needed to put in place, like all the legal stuff as well. And he was a really good support and set us on a direction. But I can resonate with Karen's comments about how it changes your life. We ended up having to sell our caravan. We were wanting to do the lap and we were cut short. We moved into a smaller unit, so I lost an office. And when you think about it, it is a time of grief, and life took a drastic turn. But you got to look forward. You can't look back too much. You've got to look forward and find the blessings that are in life. We have a very good support group, and I'm not alone too much, which is good. Yeah.
Thank you, Arnie. That's so beautiful.
Yeah, you've got to face it.
You do.
There's no. I'm a believer, and I read my Bible, and it says in the Bible that better is the day of one's death than the day of one's birth. I don't know how, but that's what it says.
And something that you touched on, Arnie, is that I've shared with you all the importance of pre-grief.
Yeah.
And so we changed the language. So with grief and the trauma of grief, trauma and depending, so I have a contract with Road Trauma Association, so I do a lot of emergency response work.
Okay.
And so the circumstances of the loss develops trauma, and trauma, as we all know, can develop into PTSD. But if we focus on post-traumatic growth, and again, is pre-grief growth, in that, like I shared at the start of this session, Everyone is our teacher, and every day we get to choose, consciously choose, what we do for ourselves to live our best life. We can either choose to be the victim, or we can choose to have a really great day.
Yeah.
Not every day is going to be easy, but like I shared at the start of the call, the balance. Stepping into the sorrows of life is just as important as stepping into the joy. So if you have a whole day in bed and you shut yourself out from the world and you are very emotional, great, do it. But as long as you go, okay, it's been 2 days now, I might have a shower, I'm going to go and catch up with a friend for a coffee, and I'm going to go out into my garden. That is the balance. Don't deny yourself of the grief and the pain, but make sure you step back into the joys. Both are just as important, and they go together.
Trip to the shopping centre.
Leanne, can I just say something?
So post-traumatic growth or post or pre-grief growth is just allowing yourself to step into, how can I grow? What am I learning? What do I need to know?
Sorry, Karen, what were you wanting to say?
Oh, no, I was just going to say that, you know, Ray and I, with this diagnosis, we also acknowledge how lucky we are that we actually have time. We have time to plan things. We have time to do things. It's and as you said earlier, Leanne, it might be me that goes first. So, you know, you could go to work. Look at these people that go to work and never come home.
Yeah.
You know how horrible that would be. You know, we really, and that's, I mean that sincerely, we do go, well, we are extremely lucky in that regard, that we do have that bit of time, because it would be pretty shocking if, you know, Ray went to work and didn't come home.
Yes.
You know? So we do take the positives out of every day. And, you know, yes, I am a planner. I don't plan too far ahead though, because otherwise I tend to get overwhelmed, you know, far too much. So I kind of plan just a little bit and then wait till we catch up a little bit as well. Otherwise, yeah, you know, if I get overwhelmed, well, the house falls down kind of thing. So I'm sort of conscious of that. And I always remember my father had a stroke 33 years ago. It's left him, and my mum's been a carer for 30 odd years of him, and you know, he's never ever said, why me? Because he said to me, why would I wish this on someone else? So and we're kind of the same, you know. We're thankful that we've got the time. Yeah, it's a pig, there's no doubt. It's a pig of the diagnosis, but yeah, we've got the time together, so I cherish that so much.
Beautiful. Yes. And I also encourage you, because you do have the time, have the conversations that a lot of people don't have. Step into the discomfort of asking your loved ones, are they scared of dying? What are their beliefs around dying? What are their favourite memories of their life? Get them to talk about all of their memories often. Talk about the joys of life. Ask them questions that you may have never asked before. Step into the vulnerability. And isn't it interesting? Shouldn't we have these conversations constantly? But we don't. We're too busy working and paying off the house and sorting the kids out and going on holidays. And then all of a sudden, everything stops and we realise that, wow, the pool doesn't really have a same significance now. Let's just sit on the back veranda and talk about what we really think.
Yeah, and so how lucky are we for that? Because others don't get to experience that,
Yeah.
you know. So I really do try and take the positives out of it, and as hard as it is, I just enjoy and try and make however long this is going to be every day a great day for Ray and a great day for me as well, because I'm sharing that with him, and it could be a hell of a lot worse, that's for sure.
Something I do a lot is family mediation, and I ask a lot of my clients the simple question, are you scared of dying? Now, at first, that could be a shock to them. It could be a shock to family members. I was working at the Bustleton Hospice unit, and it was a couple of years ago, and I went to see a beautiful elderly couple in the unit, and I asked him that question. So I asked her that question, and the husband was sitting on listening. Now, I wasn't quite sure how he felt in that conversation, but it was a beautiful conversation that continued for the both of them after I had left. A week later, he walked into my office with the biggest bunch of flowers and said, Leanne, I need to tell you something. The day that you walked into my wife's room in the hospice unit and asked her those questions, I thought, I can't remember the word that he used, but it was sort of like you were abrupt, you were too forward, it was uncomfortable. And I did feel uncomfortable, but he said it was one of the best gifts you could have ever given me and my wife. And I want to thank you very much for that conversation. Again, when I do family mediation, all the family members walk into my centre and like, why are we here? Why are we having this conversation? I don't want to have this conversation. But when someone facilitates the conversation, generally the response is, I didn't know that about my sister. I didn't know my sister felt that way. Because they will respond differently in a family meeting compared to when someone else is facilitating it. And again, 100% of the time, when I facilitate these conversations, the family go, that was the best thing that we could have ever done. We had the very uncomfortable conversation, but it was well worth it. And again, I think it's because of fear of talking about these things. For many different generations, everyone's at different perspectives and their own different understanding. But once they step into the conversation, they realise that it's actually an important conversation. Can I ask you, as the carer, what's one thing that you do to take care of yourself, being mindful that you are a carer of someone with a terminal illness? What do you do, Kieran?
Oh, you're talking to me. I would definitely take the time to take the dog for a walk. You know, I know that Ray's settled on the chair and, you know, nothing's going to happen. Well, if it does, it kind of does. If he gets up, well, whatever. But I can't control that. But I definitely go for my walks, and I need that. You know, whether I'm just listening to music, crying, you know, happy, you know, whatever. You know, definitely the walks. But I've always loved doing that. Clears my head, and yeah, I have to, and you have to. I have to do that. I have to get out because, you know, my days are pretty much just at home. If they're not at home, we're at an appointment, and I kind of need projects. I need to be doing. I can't get my house any cleaner than it is now. So,
Yes.
yeah, I've got to get out for Ray's benefit too, and I know that, you know, that's the time Ray makes his phone calls too to different people, and he needs his space as well, and I'm very conscious of that as well. So you know, it's his. We've always said it's his journey, and it's well, it's our journey, but they're his decisions for you know what's going to happen down the track, and how he wants that to progress, which way. So yeah, get out and walk.
And what's really important, Karen, is that becomes non-negotiable. So that walk in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, in 2 years is still achieved every day, and it's finding the solutions to make sure that it's non-negotiable. because it's
Yeah.
only half an hour a day that you're asking for yourself. And that's not selfish. That is not inconsiderate. That is an important, everyone has needs, and you're only asking for 30 minutes of your needs, which you're actually going to be better for everyone else around you for doing it. So it's about honouring yourself. Now, Felicity, am I still frozen? Felicity just messaged me to say I'm frozen. I'm okay,
Yes.
I'm here.
No,
All
you're
good?
still frozen.
Oh,
Am I still
okay.
frozen for you? Am I frozen for anyone else?
No.
Oh, it must be just me.
Oh, well, I hope I've got a smile on my face, because those frozen screens can look terrible sometimes.
I was thinking exactly the same thing. They always freeze at the wrong time, but yes.
So I do apologise, Felicity. I have to share with you, I'm loving being with you so much. I'm on my knees on the floor with my laptop on the massage table, and my knees are killing me. But I needed to plug it into power, so I wasn't going to interrupt our session too much. We are coming to the end of our session, and I just want to share, I appreciate all of you and your shares, and you know, the right people come together at the right time in these sessions, and I know there's going to be many that watch this afterwards, the recording, and I really hope they get just as much out of it as you guys have. As we've been talking, there's a few things that I've been thinking of that I could send you that you could watch and read to consider if they would be helpful in your own self-care. And I'm just wondering if it would be possible to get an email to the group, Sandra?
Yeah, or even if you want to send it to me and I can on-share it, or
Yes, please. That
it's
would
up
be
to
great.
you. Yeah, that would
I'll send
be
it to you,
great.
and if you can on-share it, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, that would be great. Is everyone okay with that? Would that be all right, everyone? That's yeah, excellent. Thank you, because there's some great resources that I know Leanne has.
Yeah, and when I send it, you know, read the email 2 or 3 times. Every time you read it, you're going to get something different. And maybe even watch the videos in a couple of weeks after the first time you've watched it, because again, you'll always pick up something different. And again, that's about that conscious choice every day. What am I learning to give me the best tools and resources for my own self-care, for me to cope, for me to be a good carer? Who am I reaching out to? What am I reading? What am I learning? Who am I connecting with? For that continuous growth. And that's personal responsibility, because again, we can fall into the victim, or we can take personal responsibility to learn something new every day. So that hour went very quick.
It did.
I do
It definitely did.
Yes, it did. Maybe we might need to do another one down the track,
Yes.
and I'm very happy to. And lovely to connect with you all, and I will send the email through. And again, if you want to connect, I'm here if you need to.
Yeah, thank you,
Sandra.
Thank you so much for your time, Leanne, because I know that you've got a lot on personally yourself, and really appreciate you finding the time to talk. I know that this is a really difficult topic, but a topic that, again, really needs to be spoken about and for us all to feel comfortable with speaking about it, and the importance of everyone on this group actually looking after themselves and valuing their own time as much as the people that they love around them. So, and yes, I'm very much compassionate communities and how we can help each other through this journey of MND. So I'm going to stop recording now. And
can I just
ask
Sandra?
Yes.
If you stop, I just thought I'd like to ground everyone after a conversation. Can I ask everyone to join me in regulating their emotions and their nervous system and bringing it back into balance? And all I want you to do is just grab your arms and give them a really good shake. Everyone has to join me. Come on, Rocco.
You shake
Come on,
it.
Arnie.
Take it out. has everyone heard of Qigong, which is a Qi means energy and Qigong is body movements to move that energy. And this is a movement where we're literally just shifting energy from something that we were holding on to quite heavy, and now we're just lightening up our body again. Does everyone feel a little bit lighter after doing that? Thank you for joining me.
Yeah.
Dear.
Thank you
Rocco.
again.
I didn't think I was going to get you to join me, but you did.
We tried to.
Yeah. So I really appreciate everyone coming on board. I'm going to stop because we're at the 1 hour point, so I'll stop the recording now. So I appreciate everyone being here. No, it's a very difficult topic, but it's a topic that we need to discuss across MND and our community.